So we're going to take a moment to celebrate some of our companies and businesses that have stood the test of time here in Central New York and that have found ways to thrive in changing economic conditions. As we recognize this year's Economic Champions, we wanted to pay special tribute to the many businesses that contribute to that legacy. We are very, very fortunate to have with us today three business leaders whose companies embody the types of accomplishments that I think we all aspire to in each of our own professional careers. Jim Fox, the CEO of O'Brien and Gere, celebrating 70 years. Janet Callahan, the managing partner of Hancock and Estabrook, 125 years. And Tim Kennedy, the president of the Syracuse Media Group, celebrating 185 years of the Post-Standard and 20 years of Syracuse.com. Please give them a round of applause as they join me up here on stage. Okay, so is this on? All right, great. So 70 years, 125 years, and 185 years. I mean, it's almost astounding to just listen to those numbers, right? What they mean to me, maybe more than anything, is the ability to survive so many different business cycles, different challenges, different eras. How have each of your businesses over that period of time had to respond? What's the level of versatility or adaptability that's necessary in order to be able to stand here and represent a business that has that kind of legacy here in Central New York? Maybe we'll start with you, Jim.
Great, Rob. Thank you. Before I answer, can I just say that every time I hear you talk about economic development activity in the URI, I just kind of want to start moving. I mean, I just really... we're so fortunate in the region to have you here with us. So I just want to say that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
This is supposed to be about you.
I know. Thanks. And for the record, before we get into all these years, I don't feel a day over 54. But I think one of the key elements for any business, for our business certainly, has been I'll call it resiliency. The ability to adapt and change is incredibly important. When I think back 70 years, we started really from very humble beginnings, and to go from, for example, a couple of folks that were partners to 900 employees and 25 offices around the country. From one office in Central New York is sort of amazing, and it speaks to resilience and adaptive change. Entrepreneurial behavior is certainly a key component of that, and innovation is a key component of that. So I think woven into the fabric of our sort of success has been just the ability to be change able and to embrace it as part of our normal business planning.
So Janet, I mean, one of the things that just sort of dawns on me as I think back over 125 years, just how remarkable the needs of your clients were. What they were 125 years ago that someone had expected from their attorney, and what's expected now. How different, how many new rules and regulations and challenges. How has that impacted Hancock's ability to grow and to serve its client base?
Well, one of the things that we've always prided ourselves on is being very responsive to our clients' needs. And technology has been very, very important to help us to do that. We have mobile devices now. We're accessible to our clients 24/7. We all have the ability to remotely access our work computers from wherever we are at any time. So that's been hugely important to us. Recently, one of the things that we've also been able to do is we have been able to expand our client base on a national level by becoming involved with an association, Alpha International, which is a networking organization of more than 150 law firms across the United States and abroad. And that has given us the ability to tap into a client base that includes Fortune 500 companies who are not necessarily having a physical presence here, but they need representation in the Central New York area, and we've been fortunate to be able to provide that representation. It also allows us to put our clients and local businesses in touch with these companies.
So, Tim, I think we've all seen, experience in this community over the course of the last many years, this sort of rapid transition that's happening in digital media. Nobody's probably experienced it more than you and the great staff at the Syracuse Media Group and the Post-Standard. Talk to us a little bit about what it's like to be in an environment that is so dynamic and changing almost every single day.
It's mostly scary. I think when you think about legacy, you have to recognize the people that were there before you, my great colleagues that are here with me here today, but also those that have worked at the Post-Standard and all the various newspapers that were forerunners of the Post-Standard over years. And it's a humbling experience. I think to survive for 185 years, it's also good to have been a near monopoly for a long period of that time. I recommend to anybody, if you get the chance to manage a monopoly business, you should do it. It's terrific. But everybody has a cell phone, and I think the changes in my industry, in the media industry, they're well documented, and that's what we've pushed on toward. And I think that experience that we had, that we set out on 3 years ago or 20 years ago, if you want to rewind to the beginning of Syracuse.com, will serve us well over the next decade. We were just talking at lunch. We've had to work through these changes, and I think every company here, every politician, everybody here effectively has a story to tell. And that's what we do. And you have to tell a story, and you have to tell a story to an audience. And that audience might be, your current customers or new customers. And that's really what we've gone through over the past 3 to 20 years. And that's what we find ourselves doing, is trying to coach people on how to tell their own story today in this digital age.
It's interesting, all of you have referenced in some way, shape, or form the sort of change, how change can be thrust upon you. Sometimes people can seek it, other times it seeks you out and finds you. I'm just curious, how, as leaders in each of these individual businesses, have you dealt with that issue of change management, right? Helping people see the opportunity on the other side of adversity. I think, certainly it's a great metaphor for Central New York as we look to transition our economy. Change can be scary, but there is an opportunity to do something bigger and bolder. How have you experienced that in your own individual businesses?
Well, we change. I think when you think about legacy business, it may be harder. If you think, we all celebrate startups, and we should. Having an idea and building a business around that idea is incredibly difficult. And I've had the been fortunate enough to be able to work on some startup businesses, some digital businesses in my past, and see them grow to be billion-dollar entities. But I think managing a legacy business is, in my view, tougher, because you have to deal with change. And you have, with a legacy brand or company or organization, you have to let people know what doesn't change. And you have to anchor on those things, and then you have to tell everybody everything else we have to be able to discuss. We have to be able to change. We have to be able to innovate. But that legacy business brings a lot of preconceived notions. It brings the way we used to do business and a lot of that. And that's tough. In some ways, you're a startup. It's, hey, if I get some funding, we'll make this happen. If I get an audience, we'll make this happen. And if we don't, we'll go find a new job. In some ways, that's easier than trying to operate that way through a legacy business.
I've been practicing for more than 30 years, and I can tell you that the practice of law now is vastly different from what it was when I started. And I echo what Jim said. Jim said we have to be flexible. Back at the office, we call it being nimble. especially since the business in Central New York has changed, manufacturing has kind of been turned around. One of the things that's helped us to survive and thrive is that we've had to be on the lookout for potential growth areas, and we've had to develop practice areas that respond to those growth areas. For example, we have a very active elder law practice now. We have a healthcare practice. We have a family business succession practice, and these are all things that have developed along with the boomers. So we've responded to needs, and we've grown the talent that we need to respond to those needs.
I might just comment on one other item. What we've learned, I have to deal with a lot of really smart people, engineers and scientists, and if I can't explain why we're changing, purposeful change is sort of a key. If we can't get to purpose and agreement on purpose, a lot of the other change management things become a lot more difficult. So we spend a lot of time really planning, looking at what's outside of our control, looking at what is inside of our control, see what's happening in the competitive landscape, all those sort of factors, and then we sort of think about what purposeful changes we need to make to, that will continue to position us well for the future. And it's sort of simple, but it's hard to do that when you're dealing with a lot of really smart engineers and scientists.
I really like the word purposeful because to me it brings to mind this level of intentionality around what you do and how you do it. And I think as I was watching the video, which I saw for the first time along with all of you today, I was struck by how intentional each one of the business leaders that was focused there, and probably dozens of others that weren't highlighted here, are about their community engagement. Right? I think going along with a legacy business comes this deeper investment in the community, perhaps than if you're not in that space. So each one of you, I've personally experienced with each one of your individual companies how passionately involved not only you are individually as leaders, but your employees are in this community. Talk to us a little bit about the community role, the community impact, and the community legacy that you look to leave behind.
I'll take this one. We're extremely grateful for all of the opportunities that we've been given by Syracuse in the Central New York area over our 125-year history. And we take our commitment to give back to the community very seriously. Our 60 lawyers sit on more than 100 local not-for-profit and civic and service organization boards. Not only are we personally involved in these boards, but we also have a generous giving program. We provide financial support to a number of worthy organizations, and to echo what Congressman Katko and Rob both talked about earlier, one of our most important natural resources is our young adults. We need to educate them and keep them here in this community. And two of the programs that we support are Say Yes to Education and Synergy, both of which are intended to educate urban students and help them to graduate from high school and college. And we have had interns through both of those programs, and hopefully they will settle here in the Central New York area.
Tim?
Sure. Community impact and sort of social responsibility. There are a lot of things that keep me up at night, and that's not one of them. I think what we do and have done for 185 years, I believe in my heart, and I know that really everyone at the Syracuse Media Group believes, is that what we do is inherently good for the community. Every day, as a matter of fact, part of our mission, we talk about when we're at our best, we do make the community a better place. And we strive to do that, whether we're reporting and telling stories, or whether we're helping advertisers reach customers. We believe that. And so there are a lot of things that keep me up at night, but community impact and social responsibility isn't that, because I think that is core to what we are and have been for 185 years.
And I would just add, when we take a look at our strategic planning and strategic objectives and so forth, one of the things that was identified by our people was corporate social responsibility. So we actually have one of 4 of our sort of pillars or strategic objectives in the area of corporate social responsibility. And the importance to that is it's good for our business. We are in 25 different communities. Obviously, our largest presence is here. It's really important to our people to engage in the community in which they live and work. So we actually go to a deeper dive and granularity and think about what's important to our people. So STEM, economic development, wellness. There are certain themes even that connect very well with our people. And what we found is if we can tease out those areas of connectivity, we see a flood of engagement of our time, our talent, our financial resources. When we see a disconnect with any of those, there's maybe not as much participation. So we work really hard on trying to make sure that it's connected both long-term and short-term with our priorities.
You know, so I think we're over time, but I can't help but reflect on the fact that 70, 125, 185 years, you don't achieve that without having an eye towards the future. So 30 seconds or less, what's next for Syracuse Media Group, for Hancock and Estabrook, for O'Brien and Gere? Give people something to be optimistic about.
Renew your subscription, please. Give us some more runway. You know, our goal is to survive and thrive, and that's what we're going to do.
We have just opened an Ithaca office, so we're excited about that. It gives us more opportunities to expand into Tompkins County, and we're going to continue to look for new opportunities. We're very excited about the prospects that are contained in the revitalization initiative, and we're very optimistic about the future in Central New York.
Yeah, I would probably echo some of that. We've got some very specific growth plans. We have identified some potential acquisitions. I won't get into specifics, but we're in advanced manufacturing, in energy, environment, and water. All four of those areas we see into the future as being very compelling areas for us to grow the business because of things like climate change and population explosion versus the natural resources on the planet, aging energy and water infrastructure that we need to modernize, at reshoring of industry back to the United States and our footprint. So for us, we actually bring that work from other locations back to Syracuse and execute a lot of that work from our location and our manufacturing location in Liverpool. So for us, we see growth as a very, very key theme, and it's very targeted to certain areas of those four service areas.
Please join me in thanking Tim, Janet, Jim.